this just the start.
What's up, y'all? Thanks for stopping by the Obviously Authentic channel. My name's Leah, that's spelled L-E-A and not L-E-A-H. So as you can see, I'm in a different spot. That is because I'm actually visiting my parents right now. So, you know, school's about to start in August, so, you know, I gotta get these trips out the way. But I wanted to also stay consistent with videos, so that's definitely, I didn't want to get too far behind. But y'all not worried about that. So we are here to talk about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So it opens up and everyone is packing for La Quinta. Y'all, I swore La Quinta was in Mexico. I thought these ladies was going to Mexico. I did not know that La Quinta is, I guess, a small part of Palm Springs or maybe a resort area in Palm Springs. But I was like, y'all going to Mexico? I really thought they was going to Mexico. But because, like, the only place I've been in California is San Diego. So I was kind of like, oh, they're going to Mexico. But they're not. We end up finding out that Garcelle's going to be late. She's still filming for The Real. But Garcelle and Crystal will be staying in a hotel while the other ladies will be staying at Kyle's house. Kyle's house is actually really nice, her Palm Springs home. I love the outside. They have the backyard area. They have a really nice patio with really nice furniture. The pool is heated, and then I love that they had a view of the mountains. It just looks so like peaceful and serene. We end up finding out that Sutton and Crystal have been texting and, you know, kind of trying to talk, which I think is good. I think because, you know, the other ladies, Kathy, Kyle, and Dorit getting, you know, the virus and them having to shut down for quarantine for 14 days, everyone had to quarantine themselves for 14 days. I think it gave everybody time to like cool off, because if they had to keep seeing each other over and over and over again, I think it would make the situation worse. So I think it was needed, because they seem to be cool now in like real time. So they had to make amends somewhere. So I think that's good, because I like for pretty much for the most part, I like everybody on the cast. There's nobody I feel like is insufferable. I mean, Lisa Rinna is insufferable, but I can take or leave her. Like, if she's there, that's cool. If she's not, I'm fine. It's not like somebody that like I'm a diehard fan of on this cast. So I'm glad to see that they're being amicable, you know. So everyone's at Kyle's house. We see the ladies are reading off an article about Tom's case. So on the day of the trip, Tom had a hearing in Chicago, and Dorit let it be known that they froze his assets in his accounts because they found out that the courts found out that he used $2 million inappropriately. So I was like, ooh. And Crystal shed light on the situation, which it was kind of cool to see her perspective, where she was like, 8 million, like Tom was worth, I think if I remember correctly in the Hustler and the Housewife video, is that Tom had $80 million in his account, and then he had $60 million in cash that he said he don't know what he did with, which I don't believe that. But when Crystal was in her green screen, Crystal said like $2 million is like a drop in the bucket for someone of Tom's wealth. I don't understand why he just isn't paying it and making it go away. So I think what I'm realizing as I'm watching this series is that the women are getting information just as we got information when this case first blew up. Like, they don't know the severity of how serious the situation is, other than like they know that the funds were taken from, you know, the orphans, the widowers of the plane crash, and other victims of very serious things like that explosion from that company. The one lady that had, you know, her breast implants, they were defective and they were causing her pain. So a lot of these people are owed their money, but I don't think the women knew how serious the situation was like we do now, because we're getting all this information. But we have to remember, they're just getting this information like we were and being filmed. So they're reading it off. I kind of chuckled because they were all like, woo. And so everyone's chilling, and then we see Erica come. Side note, before I talk about Erica, Kathy brung this ginormous candle, and I focused in on that because I like candles. Walmart and Bed Bath and Beyond, Bed Bath and Body Works, I mean, is where I get my candles, because they have some of the best smells. Like Walmart has this one candle that smells like fresh rain. It smells so good. And then they also have this one candle that like it smells like a man. And when I like it smells like a fine lumberjack kind of man in my place when I like that candle. And then they have a denim candle that it's supposed to smell like fresh denim. It smells so good. So I like candles, but like I would not want to have that obnoxiously big candle in my house. Because I feel like it was a peppermint candle, and that would drive me insane. Because I do like the smell of peppermint, but not too much. And that candle probably could last for probably a whole year, like a whole straight up year. But she brought a candle. It was nice to see Kyle and Kathy get along. Kyle even said that like she's glad that she has this relationship with Kathy. Because remember, they hadn't been talking, I think, for almost like 3 years, because Kyle was shooting that series American Woman that was based, I guess, loosely based on their life. And maybe the family felt like she was going to start airing people out. But it's nice. I don't know if Kathy is really as crazy as she seems. If you watch Rodney the Voice, he's awesome. He said Kathy gives him pills and wine, and she really does. And I'm like, I don't know if Kathy is just like being wacky, because we know Paris was like being ditzy and dumb with a squeaky voice for like profit, but now we see her now, her voice is deeper and she's a lot smarter than she seems. So I'm like, I don't know if she playing or not. But so far, Kathy's okay. I'm not like standing her. Like, I don't know why so many people are standing her. Maybe it's because of the wealth. It's like she's kooky and she's wealthy, and maybe people are expecting her to be like rude or really bitchy, and she's not. But yeah, it was just nice to see that the two sisters getting along. So Erica comes, y'all. Erica, y'all, so she walks in and she takes a deep breath and she's like stressed out, obviously. We end up finding out that Erica sold her clubhouse, which is basically her office, but it was like a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom apartment where, you know, they would do all her glam, all her fittings for her costumes, for her for Erica Jane, for her pop star persona, and other business ventures. All those things were done there. But she got to sell it because Tom hasn't been giving her money since she left him in November around election. So she gets to the house. It was this gesture, y'all. When she put that hand up and she was like, it's not okay. And it's not going to be okay for a long time. And she kept doing it. And it's like that one tear comes down. And then she was like, and I was like, Erica, this is not a novella. This is not All My Children and One Day at a Time or whatever, Days of Our Lives. This is not a soap, sweetie. Chill out. But like, I do feel bad. Like, I do slightly feel bad for her. And I think it's because as someone that deals with anxiety, when she said in her confessional that like every day I wake up, it's always bad news all the time, I think that I don't think that would make me anxious. Like, I would probably have to be like on some heavy medication to like calm my nerves. I probably would like deactivate Twitter, Instagram, like Facebook. Like I would change. Like, I would not want to, cause you know, people are, you have to know people are DMing her like hateful messages and like letting her know what's going on. So it's just kind of like, that sucks to be you, girl. Sucks to be you. But I'm starting to realize like I don't think Erica's gonna leave this this situation unscathed, to be completely and totally honest, because someone posted, and I'm gonna post it, y'all know I feed in the video of pictures. Someone posted a clip over like a screenshot of the assets of Tom and Erica in 2018, and he basically invested, or like they either garnered or invested or acquired over $25 million at the beginning of the start of EG Global, which is Erica Jane Global, her pop star persona and her production. And by the end, they had $26 million, basically. I'm rounding these numbers up. And I was like, you're going to have to give these people some type of money. I don't get why Erica, since she's supposed to be this pseudo pop star, hasn't done a benefit concert. As much as like different communities love her, especially like the gay community, if I was her, I would be performing. I would get some underground gay artists and even some straight artists, and I would have a massive benefit concert and be upfront with people and be like, this is to raise money for these victims that like my man scammed, my ex-husband scammed. Because I feel like that would put her in a positive light, and then it would also give those people some type of compensation. And granted, I know we're in a Panasonic, but there were so many like, I saw so many like what's it called, IG Live, and like even on YouTube, like drag shows and like concert performances of people performing in their house, and the people were still like sending like cash apps and like, you know, sending money off of like, you know, Snap, is it super chats on YouTube. So it's like she could do something, but the way she be acting on on IG and on Twitter, like Erica just is acting very cocky, and it's like, sis, you can feel that way in your home, but on the public perception, you need to be as humble as pie, because you're posting pictures of you doing photo shoots and still living this like lavish lifestyle. And I'm just kind of like, there's still people who need that money. We're talking about burn victims, people who burn victims. We're talking about orphans, widows, people who have filed medical lawsuits. It's like so much stuff. And it's like, you can't be mad at people who have a negative perception of you now, who are coming at you. Granted, they shouldn't be coming at you, but you don't make it any easier when you're trying to still live this larger than life persona while these people are still suffering and need their money that is owed to them. It does not make you look good, Erica. So Erica shows up. Everybody's like comforting her, but I started to notice the wheels were turning in Sutton. The wheels are turning in Sutton. Like they are turning, and I could see them turning, because we were listening as we were listening to the stories that Erica was telling. Sutton's eyes were like, it was, the wheels were turning. The hamster was on the wheel, and it was like, So, Erica sits down. They all comfort her. They find out that like I said, he had his court case in Chicago. Sutton asked, she was like, Sutton's like, why are they dragging you? And that's when Dorit chimes in, and she talks about how when PK had his illegal issues, because she married him, even though those legal issues were before she even knew who he was and before they even got married, they froze her account as well, and they came at her and were slandering her name because she was attached to PK. I will say it's a lot of legal stuff going on with the girls on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Dorit has some tax problems. She owed like $1.3 million in unpaid taxes, and then you got Lisa Rinna is being sued for $1.2 million for copyright infringement because she took pictures, I guess, from allegedly she took pictures from a blog site of herself. It was of her and like Harry and the girls, and she posted them on her IG stories and actually on her Instagram, and they're suing her for $1.2 million for damages. And I'm like, if they really take her to court, I hope she countersues and takes their money, because this is stupid to take someone to court for posting pictures of themselves for copyright infringement when you're the person in the picture. That doesn't make sense to me. So like a lot of them have some legal troubles. So like I said, Sutton's like, why are they dragging you? And then Kathy chimes in and she was like, you always want to believe your husband. And I was looking at her like, Kathy, because Kathy then says, like, if my husband gives me 50 pages and tells me to sign on the dotted line where the X's is, am I going to read them? Yes, Kathy, you read them. You just don't sit there and sign anything and you don't know what you're signing. Like, 50 pages is serious. It'd be different if it was something that was like 2 pages where you can like flip through it and read it. But I would read 50 pages because I would feel like it's something serious that you need multiple signatures. Like a lease agreement, because you need multiple signatures for lease agreements where you got to initial everywhere. So I'm like, for her to be like, oh, I'm not going to read it. I was like, that don't make no sense. That makes no sense, Kathy. And nobody said anything to Kathy, which I was like, girl. But while they're having this conversation, we see Kyle and Crystal in the kitchen, and Crystal is helping Kyle cook lasagna. Side note, Kathy and Dorit made me upset because they didn't want Kyle to put onions in her lasagna. And I love onions. I love fried, like I love onion rings or fried onions. I love onions on my salad, on my sandwiches. I love onions. So I was like, onions in lasagna would be fire. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. So Crystal and Kyle are in the kitchen and they're just talking, and Crystal is like, basically like, she feels bad for Erica. And then Kyle brings up like the power dynamics where he was like, it was really like daughter and father. And my thing is like, I don't feel that bad for Erica when they keep bringing up the power dynamics, because it wasn't like she was 22 marrying a 61-year-old. You were 29, almost going on to be 30, marrying a 61-year-old. Yes, you went in there knowing the power dynamics were going to be off kiltered. So it's just kind of like, I can't feel that sorry for you when you knew that's what it was going to be. That's just my feeling, y'all, because it's like, it's not like you were like 19 or 20. It's not like it's like Amelia and Scott. Amelia's 19 and Scott is 37. Of course, I could be looking at Amelia and be like, she's young, dumb, and she's naive, and she's like being mesmerized by the fact that it's Scott Disick and he's a Kardashian and she's going to get fame and all that stuff because her name is going to be attached to his. And he might be like manipulating her and being like this sweet, really kind guy. But if they ever got married, he might be a total dick, and we know Scott can be a dick. So I'm just kind of like, that's a power dynamic that someone goes in willingly, but not genuinely knowing what they're getting into because they're young and dumb. Whereas Erica was a single mom. She was almost 30. She was 29, and Scott was 60. So not Scott. Tom was 61. So she knew what it was. So it's like them constantly bringing up, like, you know, he would say stuff and be like, be quiet. And I was with Sutton. Why don't you leave? And she was like, where was I gonna go? And I'm like, you could have left. And my thing is like, I get it. She wouldn't have the lifestyle that she has if she would have left Tom. But you were on reality TV. You were basically a fan favorite. You could still be Erica Jane and, dance at Pride, dance at like folk festivals or like, summer festivals and stuff like that. Be dancing at the club. That would have gave you some good money to live your best life. And you're on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And I know y'all get a nice check. So it's like, her saying, where was I gonna go? It was like, you could have went home. I don't like this whole thing, like, you really didn't have an option when, like, you had an option. You just liked the lifestyle more. I could respect it more when you were like, I liked my lifestyle and I didn't want to leave. Instead of this whole, like, I was trapped kind of thing. Because you really weren't, because you've been on this TV series for almost, I think Erica's almost been on here for like 4 or 5 years. So I know you have some type of money, bruh. So miss me with that. So then, they're talking and everyone's just talking. And I thought it was really nice to see them do like the little rituals for the new moon. I guess Kathy said the new moon hadn't been seen in 600 years, or the moon hadn't looked this way in 600 years. So they did this whole thing where, you blow out the candle for what you're wishing. Like, I think they were like, you lift up your hands to let go of like bad energy and welcome in good energy or like good things. So I thought that was cool. But, they're all sitting out on the porch and they're kicking it. Oh, I didn't talk about Sutton before we get into that shenanigans. So Sutton is trying to encourage Erica, and she tells her about how her dad killed himself when she was 32, 2 days before Christmas, and it was supposed to be Porter, her daughter we saw last episode's first Christmas, because she was only 9 months. But when he killed himself on the day of her mother's retirement, and her mom was pissed, which I probably would be pissed too. And I will say when I first saw the clip, I kind of felt like her mom was just a cold-hearted, evil lady. But then as I thought about it, I was like, her relationship with her dad is totally, Sutton's relationship with her dad is totally different than Sutton's mom and dad's relationship. Because you're a kid, so you're looking through this situation with rose-colored glasses. And then you also have your perception of your mom as well. So it's like you don't, like, if you didn't have a good relationship with your mom, but you had kind of like what Jennifer was going through. Like, Jennifer didn't see her dad be emotionally abusive to her mom. All she saw was the good in her father. And then Jennifer also didn't have a great relationship with her mom because she was afraid of her mom. So, of course, she was willing to take her dad's side over her mom because that was the parental parent, that was her parent that made her feel good about herself. It's kind of like, why would I take the side of someone who made me feel scared and didn't make me feel good about myself? And maybe that's the same dynamic between Sutton and her mom. Maybe her dad was just like, Sutton clinged on to him, whereas her mom she couldn't do it. So I was just kind of like, I had to like pull back my like judgments, because it's kind of like I was like, Leah, you can't really be like, oh, that was mean and harsh, when she could have had a horrible time being married to her father, and was probably like, and she even said she don't miss him. Like, Sutton was like, you don't miss him, and she was like, no. And I mean, the reason why, the way that she was so a matter of fact makes me feel like her daddy probably took her through a lot. And I mean a lot, because she's a psychotherapist, and then your husband has mental illness and you can't fix it or you can't help him along, and then it's just a lot. It seems like it was a lot. So Sutton shared that story with Erica to tell her, like, if I can get through that during Christmas, then you can get through that during your Christmas, even though it feels crappy. So we head outside. So everybody's eating. They did a little ritual with their hands up. And this is when the shenanigans commence, y'all. So they're all asking Erica questions, like, about the case. So we end up finding out, like, Tom doesn't want to give her spousal support. Tom ain't been giving her money since she left him in November around election time. Also, that the medical examiner told her that like, Tom is deteriorating, so they're trying to get him evaluated because they think that he might have dementia. So then Crystal shares a story about her dad, where her dad, she said, was brilliant, but you remember we found out he had Alzheimer's. And it was sad, because it was like, to think about someone having such a brilliant mind, and then you're slowly fading away, and you know it's happening, and you can't do anything to stop it. And she said, like, her dad would just get so angry at himself. And then I was like, that has to suck. Like she said, it's a cruel joke, because it's like, I used to be so amazing and now I'm not. And I was like, dang, that sucks. But Erica starts to say, like, Tom was just so angry because, he's losing it, and he doesn't like feeling like powerless. Because it's basically what it is. You feel powerless. You're this big, strong, tough lawyer. You're a white man in America. You done got away with taking all these people money, allegedly, and now your brain is going awry, and you can't do nothing to stop it. So that has to be a horrible feeling, So they're asking her, like, what's going to happen with Erica Jane. She was like, she don't know, like, if she's going to continue it, because, you need money to be a pop star, a pseudo pop star. And then you have, so then she brings up the story about the car accident, y'all. So I remember the scene. They showed a flashback of the scene where Erica explained to Kyle that Tom was in a car accident, and this happened in 2017. He was in a car accident and he broke his ankle, but he's okay. Mind you, y'all, and I'm gonna feed in pictures, so trigger warning for anybody who gets like uncomfortable around pictures like of broken bones and stuff. Just to let you know, I'll put it in the comments below. Like there are pictures in here of broken bones. But y'all, when you break your because I gotta look at the picture. When you break your ankle, you normally need rods in your ankle to hold your ankle stationary. Your ankle has several different bones. Well, there's not several different bones that make up the ankle, but several different bones can be break. Like, you can have multiple fractures in your ankle. So, and most of the time the way they fix it is they put pins in your ankle. Tom is in his 80s. And then I guess this would happen in 2000, this accident happened in 2017. He would be in his 70s. If he broke his ankle, he would not be getting up and going to do stuff. They even did a flashback of like last year, and Tom seemed so happy and jovial and he was good. So it's like, girl, is this a plot set up by Todd to bring back the bullshit so you can get your man off? Because she also tried to say that, like, she's not talking to him. But I don't believe that. As high profile as Tom was, and the fact that Tom could make people move, like judges move, politicians move, I think they're smart enough not to correspond with each other on like the phone or on the computer, because that will leave a trail and stuff like that. But they are probably talking through their lawyers in some capacity, and not in like a whole, like a, what's the word? Not like in a way like of a divorce where it's contentious. I think it's probably amicable and she trying to help him out, because this really seemed like she was trying to set the stage of garnering sympathy from the judge and like I guess the jurors when they do this case for him, that he's an old man and don't need to be in jail. But he can go to jail. If Bill can go to jail, he can go to jail, because he needs to go to jail for what he did to these people. So then she said he broke his shoulder and his clavicle, y'all. And when I tell you there's multiple, so like this is the big bone in here is your humerus. If you broke this, you can't do nothing. Like, you're going to either have a rod put in here to keep it stationary, or you're going to have a cast. If you broke your clavicle, they would have to put your arm in a certain type of sling, the one that you like have to strap to yourself to keep it stationary and in place, because any sudden movement would be excruciatingly painful. Then the back of the shoulder, which is your shoulder blade, if that broke, you're gonna probably have to wear like a brace, or they're gonna have to put you in like maybe like a half or full body cast. So I was like, this story is not making sense, because basically what Erica said was that Tom, so I'm gonna read it off to y'all. She said so Tom got into a car crash. He sustained a traumatic head injury where he was unconscious for 12 hours, but he also called Erica to tell her what happened. But then she also found him rolling down a hill. So she wasn't making sense. So basically she said when Tom got into that accident in 2017, that he was unconscious for 12 hours, which is that's not good, because that means like drowning, because there's no oxygen to your brain. But that's not good either way. You shouldn't be unconscious for 12 hours. You can go to sleep for 12 hours, but you don't want to be put unconscious for 12 hours. Then she said he had a head injury. So I'm like, okay. And then she said he broke his shoulder, snapped his ankle, and broke his clavicle. And he drove off a cliff. And I'm like, if he drove off a cliff, sis, he dead. He is dead. This is not no Thelma and Louise type show. Is it Thelma and Louise where they drove off the thing in the car, drove off the cliff in the car? Like, if you fall off a cliff, more than likely you're going to die. Like, you're going to die. So that doesn't make sense that she said he drove off a cliff. Then she said he wasn't with the car. She found him. He was down the hill, and it was because behind their house, I guess they had a windy road, and maybe it's a ditch, because she then said he fell down a steep hill. So it wasn't a cliff. She was just putting 20 on 10 for dramatic effect, but he fell down into a ditch. And she said she found him in the ditch, like beside the car or like near the car. But he also called her because she didn't know where he was for 12 hours. I was like, what? Then they were like, well, if you didn't know where he was for 12 hours, like, why didn't you call? She was like, I assumed he was with another woman. And I was like, Erica, you adding a lot to this story. So then, like, when she's telling the story, everybody's expressions is just shock and, like, stuck and stunned. And, like, I'm looking at Sutton, because Sutton is like, this, because even Sutton said in her confessional, this don't make sense. Like, this doesn't, like, it's too much. And it is too much. So then Kyle says that she heard rumors about Tom cheating, and like she was like, you wouldn't think an 81-year-old would cheat, but those are the rumors she heard. And then Erica said that like she got the courage from Yolanda and David's divorce to go through his phone and found out that he was being sloppy, and like she found evidence of him cheating. And then they asked again, why didn't you leave? And then that's when she was saying, like, where am I going? And then Dorit says, you know what? Erica isn't as tough as she likes to let on. And I was like, she's not. But I was just like, this don't make no sense. Like, her story doesn't make any sense, because if you snap your ankle, you are out for a while. Like, couple that with like physical therapy, I would say for you to like rehab and get back together would probably be a year. Then if you snap your shoulder, and your shoulder can be broken in several places, but if you break your clavicle, your shoulder, or even your scapula back here, you are like your scapula or you're out for a minute, yo. Like, you can't use this side of your arm, and he's 81. So I would think the rehab for it would be like even longer, because his body is weakened. So her story didn't make sense. Like, it was not adding up. And I was just like, Erica, shut up, because you're not making sense. And then she did that hand thing again where she was like, yeah, my life. I was like, Erica, this is not a soap. Chill. So I was just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, this is way longer than I expected it to be, y'all. But drop down in the comments below and let me know your thoughts and opinions. Remember to be bravely authentic. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.